Excited to be here. This is DevOps Days Amsterdam. If you didn't know, that's where you're at. Has been on my list of wanting to be here, so I'm glad I'm here. If I'd have known there was the option to present outside, I would have, but I guess that wasn't in the option. So we're going to talk about developer experience, how central it is to the success of DevOps within your organization. I will say a quick note about a lot of the images you'll see. They have been AI generated. So that will explain how some of them look really weird and disjointed, and because AI still can't quite figure out how to do things. When you tell it not to put text on a slide, it goes and puts text on the slide. So anyways, that's kind of a disclaimer there, and we'll kind of jump right into it. Oh, hey, look there, we went really good. Okay, yeah, so when we think about developer experience, from the kind of thinking about it from the simplicity of a setup process with a tool to how complex it might be to solve a production issue, DevX really directly impacts the developer productivity, the satisfaction, and ultimately, the quality of the products that get built and even get used. We're just going to not do that anymore. It is an integral part of the entire DevOps cycle. And is really a direct result of the choices that we make about the different tools that we might use, the technologies, the platforms, even everything from support to even the server, whether on-prem, hybrid, all of that. So it means that this ease of use and the reliability, how accessible, how understandable documentation could be, and how efficient build processes are, all of those things, really have an impact on the overall developer experience someone might have with, either internally or externally. But it's also not a new thing. That is, I wish I could have had that a bit bigger on the screen. The first mention of developer experience itself as a concept, what I could find, was actually in a paper presented at the IEEE's June 2012 conference on software and system process in Zurich. There's references in the paper going back to 1985 that deal with programmer performance and the effects of the workplace. Even back to 1985 and before, we were thinking about how does the experience that engineering and even just teams have, and how the workplace itself makes a difference. Some of the few things that do stand out in that paper, which I really wanted to kind of touch on. First is this thought that there's these new ways of working. It would also require better and more comprehensive understanding of developers' feelings, perceptions, motivations, and identification with their tasks in their respective project environments. Again, that was from that paper that was presented at the conference. The link, I will show these slides, and so the link will be something you can click and be able to see and go directly to it itself. The second also thing that really kind of stood out there is that DevX really could be a means for capturing how developers think and how they feel about their activities at work, and that improving that experience itself could impact things like sustained team and project performance. So this kind of thing that we're starting to see now is a lot of talk around developer productivity over the last couple years, especially after we went through some of the lockdowns with COVID, and people now had to say, oh, well, we've got to make sure our developers are as productive as they possibly can be at home before we force them to come back in the office. It's not a new concept. It's been something that's we've had a lot of thought on, but right now we see it really largely driven by companies that are trying to sell something, but it is this view from top down of how is it going to make the company more efficient, and not as much about developers themselves, not as much getting the impact or the feeling that they have about certain tools and processes and the things that they use. And so we've all kind of been there. We've all had that feeling, the need to adopt different ways of doing things, and we've had maybe your C-suite has said, oh, I have a friend that I go and golf with, and they have a tool that they say makes everybody more productive and instantly generates 10x developers. We should go and use it. And probably some of you have heard that and been like, I've used that tool. It's shite. Why would I want to use that? It's not going to help us. We're going to end up having to do this again. So it's kind of this dichotomy we have around DevX and how it does and doesn't fit into the way we look at things. So I was talking with Sasha the other day, and Sasha has a talk tomorrow. Definitely stick around for it. And we were thinking about, like, we want to really clarify this. Like, when we say DevX, by default, the idea here is we're saying there's a focus on developers' experience. I want to kind of expand that a little bit and kind of really view this as DevX itself is it's a whole part of the entire life cycle, not just something that's for developers only. And so I figured now was a good time to kind of workshop a couple different ways we could think about this, maybe some terms that might catch on, which may or may not influence if I do social media next year, evidently. Maybe something like DevOps experience, or DevXOps, or DevOpsX. I'm sure we could probably come up with a few others that probably should not be mentioned. But maybe we'll kick some trends off, get something trending for DevOps Days Amsterdam. Okay, so like I said, my name is Jeremy Meiss, and Floor, thank you for a great intro. I don't have to really go much into that. There's a website, there's my Twitter, and we can go past that slide. All right, so I want to kind of think about a working definition of DevX for us here in this talk, because it's really this journey of developers as they learn and deploy technology. When we see it being successful, it really is focusing on eliminating the obstacles that hinder a developer or a practitioner from achieving success in their endeavors. It's about all of the interactions that one might have with the systems, the tools, processes, and we've seen this evolution of what DevX has been over the years. Going to go a little bit into some nostalgia here, and so I'm going to bring up. We're going to talk about how developer experience has evolved a set of tools and practices like the IDE. So when I mention some of these tools over the next couple minutes, if you remember that tool, either groan or raise your hand. Get a little bit of audience participation. Hopefully don't groan too loudly at some of these, but it would be great to know who remembers some of these. So obviously there is Vi. Who remembers Vi? Who's used it? Great. Good. Evidently, according to this from O'Reilly, we should have called it 6 from the Roman numerals. And there's also something here about Apache web server. So whatever that could be that's probably going to trend at this point. Okay, so then after we had Vi, that was in 1976. And it was included in the first BSD Linux release itself. Then we had Emacs in 1985. Any Emacs? Any Vim? Okay, I'm sorry. My personal favorite is Nano, and that's which it's not entirely because I can actually exit it without throwing my computer out the window. Meaning then I have to go buy a new computer, which means now there's waste. So really, I'm going to use Nano and save the computer save the universe and the planet one computer at a time because I'm not using Vim. Anyways, who here remembers HP Softbench? Is there going to be anyone that remembers? I maybe see a hand. Maybe yeah. That was released in 1989. It was one of the first IDEs that had a plug-in system. It shipped even with its own library of documents. I actually did have this. This is not my picture, but I did have this at one point. Very interesting. They talked about it. HP used to do these HP journals that they would put out. I believe they were monthly or quarterly. And in the June 1990 edition of that, they talked about their vision of what software architecture could be, the development, how it should be. And they included some of these novel things back then, like automated testing, distributed computing, integrated, interchangeable tools, and more. That now that's just kind of the norm. But HP of all people, when we think about back then, they were extremely innovative. Now it's just a different landscape. Again, the link will be in the slides. Again, it's a great read. Go check that out. Early reviews of IDEs, though, were not great. The 1995 Computer Week in Germany commented that the use of an IDE was not well received by developers since it would fence in their creativity. That That was 1995. We had some, in the mid 80s, we had native IDEs, Turbo Pascal. Okay, good, that's good. Apple's Macintosh Programmers Workshop. Yeah, no. That was in 1986. Borland Delphi. Who remembers Delphi? Yeah, okay. Who else? That was in 1995 when it was released. Who here actually knows that it's still around and used? Okay, actually more than remembered it. Whatever that means. It is still around. I've not used it since back then, but it is still there. So if you still want to do some cross-platform development, I'm sure that's available. Then the World Wide Web. I'm sure we've all heard of that, the explosion of that in the mid-90s. We started seeing IDEs that started being more graphical. Who remembers the first HTML WYSIWYG editor that was done by SGI? Anyone know the name of it? WebMagic? Anyone remember that? No. Okay. SGI, they had this idea, Silicon Graphics, that they needed to seize the corner of the internet before anyone else heard rumors that there were some things happening. So they said, we need to build a graphical way to build websites, and did it in 90 days and released it. There is I'll have a link as well to that whole history lesson on how they did it. It's pretty awesome. Soon after that, that was January 95. You had Front Page. That should at least elicit a few groans. That came out October of 95 after Microsoft acquired it from Vermeer. It was not something they originally did. Macromedia Dreamweaver. Okay, yep. That came out in 97. Macromedia, actually, they acquired it from a company called iBand that had an application called Backstage that they actually Macromedia purchased, renamed it Dreamweaver. It really changed the game in so many respects. It was very community-driven in how you could get different scripts and things that would really enhance the experience of you doing development. Front Page 2000 also came out, again, a couple. That was in 99. It made web management easier because they shipped, for those that were using IIS, you had Front Page Server Extensions was included. NetBeans, yeah, and then that was in 2000 for Java. IntelliJ, Eclipse, those kind of came out in 2001. Visual Studio, should be a whole lot more. Oh, just a few more, about as many as Delphi. I don't know. Okay. That offered a lot more of like this enhanced functionality and more sophisticated features, like intelligent code completion. You had refactoring tools, improved version control integration. You no longer had to, FTP to, send things via FTP to your web server. We also saw a noticeable increase in support for multiple languages and different frameworks, making those IDEs were more versatile. Late 2000s, we saw a lot more lightweight. So things like Sublime Text, who still uses Sublime Text? Yeah. There was also Atom, which was great, and then got trashed, and VS Code came in. Yeah, I mean, actually less than Delphi. So again, whatever that means. Those started to really cater to a broader range of developers by being less resource intensive, more customizable. Even seeing more integrations with popular ops tools, where now you can do so much within VS Code, for instance, without having to have some other tools. Then we've now seen this rise of cloud, the cloud-based IDEs. The first one, who remembers PHP Anywhere? Okay, a couple of us. That eventually became Code Anywhere. Anyone use Code Anywhere? That was really the first cloud-based IDE, ability to kind of edit code. That was 2009. Cloud 9 actually was in 2010, and then AWS bought it in 2016 and kept the name, but it's AWS Cloud 9. Glitch, who's used Glitch? Okay. Gitpod, okay, a couple. GitHub Codespaces was 2020. And then Google just released Project IDX this year. So there's a few more of those. So we've, that having the cloud-based really changed the whole game by offering really fully configurable development environments in the cloud, accessible from anywhere, that you could, reducing that need for complex local setup. You didn't have to, have your laptop. You could use it from anywhere. So we went from, this kind of a sentiment about IDEs, that, nobody's really going to use them, it's going to keep us from being creative, to now having, like, all of these things are now commonplace. It's expected. If you're going to use, look for an IDE, it's got to have, at least a certain combination of these. In my conversation with Sasha, she talked about, like, Visual Studio, how that an experience she had literally made sold her immediately. She was going to use that, where she was working on a project and the whole thing was school, and they needed to, if they were going to fail, if they had any memory holes that were still in the tool when it was deployed. And they couldn't figure out, they had one, they couldn't get it fixed over a period of time. She decided, I'm just going to throw it into Visual Studio and see if it gives me a different way to search and find things. Loads it up, and immediately it says, you have a pointer error, and you want to fix it. And she fixed it right there and was able to pass. And that experience alone, without even having to do anything, finding an error immediately sold her. So that experience really shaped the tools that she was going to use. I think she said for the next 10 years, used Visual Studio. All right, so I go through all of that, like really kind of tedious trip down memory lane, to really illustrate how, developer experience, things we didn't realize have become commonplace, that we expect, that we want to have, that it really influences the experience of the tools that we're using, and that were commonplace, we didn't think would be commonplace in the 60s, are now. And modern development, IDE is really just that one example of a lot of the significant strides that we've had. We've seen in technology. A lot of the strategies that we've seen of how we try and help somebody's experience using tools have really evolved to meet a lot of the challenges that we see within kind of development lifecycle now. We've seen basic manually configured environments to sophisticated cloud-based. All those things have been a part of that shift. Another quick example, we're thinking about like our server environments, like dev, staging, production, those things. Early days, setting up that environment involved manually configuring each tool, each library, dealing with a lot of the dependencies, which could be time-consuming, error-prone. Humans, we are not good at manual tasks. Eventually, hitting the keyboard so many times, we're going to type the wrong thing and bring down production and have to start all over. From personal experience. So we've seen, practitioners, we've often struggled with all of those things that make it difficult for us. And so in the mid to late 90s, who remembers CF Engine? Okay, good, enthusiastic. Version 1 and 2 emerged. They started to automate this process. And CF Engine is still around. People still use it. The advent of tools like Puppet, Chef, Chef's here, definitely go check them out. SaltStack, Ansible, they all allowed for this automated setup and configuration of your environments and reducing a lot of that manual effort that we're so bad at. Docker. Now, we had Vagrant was really kind of before Docker, but Docker really brought it to the mainstream. This, in 2013, marked that significant shift in how you could, practitioners could really package up all of the things needed with their dependencies and such into these containers that could, be deployed consistently across environments. Automated all that up instead of having to do it manually. Then we saw tools like Terraform, AWS CloudFormation. All these things enabled defining infrastructure as code. CI/CD pipelines, DevOps practices, all those things have kind of been streamlined through these tools that now it's faster, more reliable builds and deployments. So just as we saw with IDEs, we've seen that broader impact of DevX on DevOps and things like how we deploy software, infrastructure as code, those things. And so when we think about DevOps principles themselves and how they align with DevX, I'm going to take a couple of these principles. First being, collaboration for DevOps is really about, creating that environment where, silos are broken down, cross-functional teams are kind of integrated and empowered to work as a single unit. So it's people first and then the tools second. And when we've had that focus and when we align that principle, then we're able to see with DevX, we're enhancing collaboration through tools and processes that allow us to do that, reducing that friction, reducing the barriers that helps keep teams from being successful, focusing on more solving business problems together instead of creating business problems separately. Backbone of DevOps, effective communication. We've got to be able to ensure that all members of the organization and of the different teams are able to be on the same page, so that there's not that question of who's doing what. So when we improve that communication, we're starting to think about ways to utilize the platforms and tools that we want to use, that we can streamline that so it doesn't become, again, that blocker. So that's everything from your CI/CD pipelines, your shared dashboards, automation. All those things kind of come into play. And then shared responsibility in DevOps. That is very much that collective accountability for software and how the end product is. Blurring that line between the roles that you would traditionally just kind of throw when you're ready. You're going to throw it over the wall and say that's theirs. It's now the shared responsibility in the quality that is being produced. And when you have DevX, this kind of good experience aligned there, you're going to democratize access to tools. Previous talk kind of talked about those dashboards and the ways that you can really kind of build out the platform engineering. It's encouraging this culture where everyone feels ownership of the product, motivated, contributes to the success. So orgs, we've started to see the organizations understanding they have to be more cohesive, agile, be more effective by being better equipped to meet all those different demands. And when you are starting to put for some of you may not be fully engaged in a lot of these DevOps principles, you're probably trying to bring them into your organization, ensuring that when those core principles are coming in, that you've kind of greased the skids so that there isn't that blocker to take that practice and principle and start to implement it with tools, having that focus on developer experience. Platform engineering is that perfect example of kind of how we've seen this shift. Making sure there's cohesive, integrated environments. You're extracting away a lot of those complexities, ensuring developers have access to all the different things they need, and streamlining those dev processes, reducing a lot of that setup time and reducing a lot of the toil that comes from that. Self-service is kind of the way that we've kind of built that out. Again, it's that empowering developers, leveraging automation, the templates, and predefined policies that help give good guardrails so that can feel a lot of the be empowered to really go out there and deliver something without the chance of it falling. So it's that culture of autonomy and innovation. So when we bring all these things together, when we are prioritizing DevX, we're ensuring that devs and practitioners have access to the tools and processes that they need, not only to streamline their workflow, but also really facilitating a smoother transition of code from development to production. And that ops teams have the stuff they need to do that. All right, some of these better practices thinking about here. Make sure you have the right tools, equip teams with those right tools, put in place cross-functional teams that include roles with diverse expertise, establish robust feedback mechanisms. That's an important piece of DevOps and DevX together. And then automate away a lot of those repetitive and manual tasks wherever possible. And then make sure that your team members have the opportunities to learn and grow and opportunity to fail. Put in place those guardrails so that if they have that failure, you can learn, you continue to grow, learn and make better choices. So the level of investment that a company makes in developer experience really is a reflection of the values they have towards their employees, largely. So a strong focus on developer experience shows a commitment to the well-being and efficiency of your employees. Prioritizing that really helps that culture really to take place that we want to have within DevOps itself. And when that happens, you're more likely to produce high-quality work. And when you're producing more high-quality work and pushing a lot of those boundaries of what could be possible, you are going to be happier at what you're doing and enjoying that work. So leave you with this. The way I really want to think about DevX or DevXOps or DevOps whatever we want to call it from here on out, is really ruthlessly eliminating any barrier and blocker that keeps your practitioners from being successful. And with that, thank you very much. Appreciate it.